Hi, good evening, good day, good morning, depending on where you are watching from. Right, so welcome to the official January 2026 forecast. So as usual, I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes before I get started. And first of all, happy 2026 to you. And it's just a crazy, crazy time that we live in. And there's so many things happening. There's so many busy schedules to basically keep up to. And so, yeah, managed to squeeze in this Facebook Live as well. I remember I did a December one earlier. That's right, if I'm not wrong. Okay. So if you follow this forecast regularly, thank you so much. If you're new to my page, hopefully you're able to find the information, of course, and the sort of like analysis, right, and the overall outlook prediction useful in your own way. As always, I cater to all sorts of depths of people following metaphysics. So if you're new, of course, I welcome you to follow along as much as you can. And then whenever I can go in depth, I will do that. And whenever I can get to some sort of practitioner style or practitioner level analysis, I would also naturally flow that way as well. Yeah. So if you're here, please do help me like and share. And if you can officially follow my public figure page, that would also be useful. But if you want to get information like this out, then of course I encourage you, if you can share this live on your feed, and as many people who can participate live with me, the better it is, and the more, of course, we can collectively energize ourselves, right, to wrap up the Wood Snake 2025 year. Okay, so if you can do that, and also just give us a little bit of feedback while I also get Nicole to change the view, right, so that I actually can see the references on a couple of our public figure pages that we're streaming this at as well, right? So let me just quickly do that, and then we'll get started once we make sure that all is smooth on all the pages, which this is co-streamed on. And then after that, we'll get right into the outlook and then the forecast for the January Earth Ox month. Okay, so how does that sound? Hope it sounds good to you, yeah? Once again, if you're completely new and you're seeing this shared on a person's feed, a Facebook friend's feed, so my name is Kong Yu. I am an astrologer, Chinese metaphysician, also energy worker, right, with Soleil Trinity. And yeah, so let me quickly get to the pages so we've got to get started. Right, so I welcome you. Thank you so much for joining for the forecast today, right? So quick look into the different pages. Okay, so if you can, right, just say a little hello and also confirm that this stream is smooth and the audio is clear. So Felicia is the first one to pop up on Jesse's page, right? So hi, yes, hi Felicia. Good to see you, albeit I have not really managed to catch up in person with you since Egypt, right? I hope you're hanging on great there. Yvonne, speaking of Egypt, right? There we go. That must mean something. I tell you, yeah, all the affinity with all things Egypt is amazing, right? Anyway, those of you know, right? But it is quite amazing. So we've also seen signs and also a reference back, some sort of a calling to the beautiful, powerful land of Egypt, even as recently as how we've been basically experiencing life in the past few days as well. So thank you so much, right? So Felicia, Yvonne, and everyone else who's live with me, please just confirm that the feed is smooth, audio is clear, right? And I'll also do a quick check on the other pages as well before I go. Remember, do help me share out this feed so that many people can see this forecast, especially if you feel that the information will benefit the people in your timeline in some way, shape, or form, right? That would be really, really useful. So you can just let me know, okay, that you can hear this smoothly, and I'm pretty sure it's okay lah, right? From that perspective, but do let me know otherwise. I think that might be a more efficient way to work things out, okay? I also need to remind myself to constantly keep tabs on our ST page. So occasionally, because it's like me, and then there's Nicole behind the scenes, a lot of times the other people are out and about or they're busy at work. Jessie is doing her analysis or preparations for her workshop. So it's only the couple of us, one here, standing in front of you, one behind the scenes controlling kind of everything. So Nicole is quite unique and talented that way, multitasker, okay? So let's get started. Hi, Agnes there as well, right? So I'm assuming that all is smooth. And what is this here? Oh, okay. Yeah, it's Felicia, as well as what do you call it? The other two ladies here as well. So this is interesting. I just want to make sure that all is okay on my page, yeah? Because I'm seeing this feed from the Jessie page, right? So it's okay. Okay, because it says here, okay, let me just do one little thing, right? Then I'll be fine. Okay, great. Okay, so let's get started. Let me just do a quick hello here, since you're so nice to give feedback. Hi, Vic. Yes, thanks for that hello on my page as well. So let's get into this presentation material. As always, I just have a little guide or some simple things to show. And of course, when all things astrology, when it comes to Chinese astrology, right, 八字, all things pictorial also help. So it's very useful when we can see the colors because it's easier to relate, especially if you are a newbie or an intermediate student, for example, right? So I find that every time our software here, which basically plots out the pillars in their technical names, whatever, but they also color code them. So it just makes it a lot easier to use, right? So let's get started with this. That's why I also put it up on the presentation material because you can see the pillars themselves. So now we're of course right at the end of the year, right? And of course from the seasonal perspective, we're in the last month of the winter season. So this is ending of course in January for the way we quote our Chinese solar calendar, right? So with Lap Chun, February 4th actually being the first day of the year as opposed to the Gregorian, which is already started in 2026. But having said that, of course, in terms of the energy of 2026 Fire Horse year, we've been experiencing it for many months now, right? It started, of course, coming in the Ping Shi, basically the Fire Dog month of October, and then it kind of continued on to Ting Hai, which is the November Fire Ball month, by and large, right? So most of the November month is also further activating or further bringing in the Fire Horse energy. Then when we get to the month that just finished, which is basically the December month of the Earth Rat, which ended officially on January the 4th, then it's a little bit of a mixed energy, right? Of course, we have already the underlayer of the Fire Horse, but the Rat, right, in December, the Earth Rat in particular, is kind of balancing it because of course the rat clashes the horse, right? So there's that going on, and of course it also brings up the result of fire water clash, which is basically, you know, maybe some feelings of manic sort of feeling. Maybe sometimes a little higher, sometimes a bit lower, sometimes a bit happy, sometimes a little bit more stressed, and overall there's like a fire water combustion, which is powerful, but it could also signify behavioral traits like impatience, stress, frustrated feelings, and then exasperation. That's also one of the characteristics of the December month. But the December month as well is also very important, and it's also connected very much to January. So we will go into those details, right? So, but January as a Earth Ox pillar itself, okay? So Earth Ox, Earth of the heavenly stem is Yin Earth, Ji Earth, and then the Ox, of course, interestingly now contains Ji Earth as its main chi, and then with the expiring chi of water, so specifically the Koi water drop there, and then with the Sin metal as a storage. So that is the key, right? What happens to this storage of Sin metal, okay, in relation to the year's activation, especially in relation to how the year closes? So that is why this month of January, the Earth Ox month, is very, very powerful as a closure, right, to the wood snake year. Now everybody, of course, has gone forward already, right? Ever since a few months ago, right? Fire horse, fire horse, fire horse. So everybody's mostly thinking fire horse, especially anybody who's related to Chinese metaphysics or anybody who follows it, even from the very sort of casual perspective, the lay person's perspective, right? Every year I check my zodiac, right? I may not know that I have 4 animal signs in my full parzi. I do know that I'm born of the year of this animal sign and this animal sign. So up to that level, many people already have been, in a way, literally pre-activated with the fire horse because it's such an exciting year. It's such a dramatic year that's already had its roots or it starts in 2025 that we forget, right? So one of the things that I was very much reminding myself and then reminding myself to share with anybody who listens to me, right, is to emphasize back, close the wood snake year as best as possible, as optimally as possible, right? So we'll find out how, right? For that, of course, we need to understand that Chou, being the ox, is the last month of the calendar year, the solar calendar. And by its connection to the other earth animal signs, which are all graveyard and storage, right? Remember, just now, a couple minutes back, I said that the ox, of course, is the grave of water, and then it's the storage of metal, right? And thus, it's also the winter checkpoint because it's the third month of the season, which is an earth animal sign, in this case it's the ox, and it closes not only the winter season, but it closes the entire year, that's one, and also closes the snake year, that's two. Right? Because every January is an ox month, but not every January is as relevant and as powerful as this one because it closes the wood snake, and also the other characteristic of all earth ox months rather is that it is connecting to the tiger, which is in February, which then links, of course, in terms of the animal signs of the earthly branches, in terms of the continuity from year to year, because it's a full hidden combination that goes on, right? So that's a bit technical, but that's how we see the months rolling by in supporting the years that roll by on a slightly larger perspective, okay? So just a recap, so ox is the winter checkpoint, and what is interesting about this ox, because you know you can pair any of the 5 elements in a cyclical 60-pillar fashion with the animal sign, right? So there is the earth ox, there's the fire ox, and then so on and so forth. But this year that concludes the wood snake year is an earth ox month, which means that the Qi earth, which sticks out, which we will call protrudes on top, right, is basically an extension of the main Qi of the ox, which is the Qi earth inside, the same yin earth. Now, then it's debatable, right? Is the ox a water animal sign signifying winter, or is it an earth? Right, so it depends, right? Sometimes we see it more towards this way, sometimes we see it more towards that way. But this year, we definitely, in my opinion anyway, right, see it more as the earth. So it's a full pillar of yin earth or Qi earth there, right? Now, why is it particularly powerful, this earth ox, in closing up the wood snake? So first of all, last hurrah to the wood snake, okay, in terms of this monthly forecast. The wood snake has been here the whole entire year, giving us the opportunity to learn and grow, particularly with what I call the heavenly stem, which is gift from heaven, of the theme of the year, which is yin wood. That means one shortcut that we should all use, right, and adhere to is that whatever the heavenly stem is of that year, maximize it, no matter what it means to your chart. It doesn't have to be favorable, right? Just maximize that heavenly stem, which is the gift from the universe for that particular year, as one layer of the work that you do. So for example, now that the wood snake is expiring, right, so have we done enough yi wood qualities? That means what? Creativity, strategy, flexibility, and thinking outside of the box. It's all related to all of that. And then of course the key term to it, which is basically connection and networking. So that is what we should have done. Other characteristics are like marketing, for example, right? Surface packaging, right? How things look from the packaging perspective. I wouldn't say just from the outside, because in the fire horse year, one of the things to take note of, to watch out for, is that things may not appear as they seem, right? Because fire is all about appearance, but not in terms of that, more in terms of the packaging that's presented together. That is yi wood, right? Because it's like the wrapper of a Christmas present and so on. So that should exist alone. Every single heavenly stem that comes in for the year, okay, for the month is a little bit too short term, right? But for the, and then because if it comes in a month, then my view of astrology is that it always has to take into account Tai Sui, which is the year. So that's why all my monthly forecasts, right, it spends a portion of it talking about how the month is related to the year itself, because that is the key. Because if you just analyze the month itself, yeah, you can see from the Qi, you can see from the 5 elements, you can see from the 10 gods what is affected and so on, but the true power of it is in the interaction of the month with the Tai Sui, right, which is the year pillar. In this case, the expiring one for 2025 is the wood snake. Then, of course, the snake itself is the challenges that brings potential for lessons to be learned. Because if we don't overcome those challenges, then lessons are not learned. And then when that is not followed through, then of course the opportunities are fewer. You will see more challenges and tests and tough things, or things which are undesirable, shall we say, right, than opportunities. But if the challenges are welcome, they are undertaken, and then the lessons are learned in the cycle of the year itself, or maybe the previous 12-year cycle that's also related, it's the same animal sign, right? Then more opportunities seem to be there. Or we see life more opportunistic than just bringing problems and challenges. Okay, so that's what Tai Sui brings especially the energy of the animal sign itself. Then the snake, of course, is, as a recap, like I said, a last hurrah to it, right? So it's a growth star. It's different from this year. This year it is a peach blossom star, right? As in like 2026's horse. But the snake is a growth star. Now, particularly growth of metal. So that is key, right? And I feel that there has not been enough emphasis on the metal, right, where it is carried as a growth. That means you're seeding growth, right? So every every three animal signs is basically a growth animal sign, right? A sky horse, a traveling star, and it always contains the seed of the future season. So, just so happens, fire produces earth, but fire produces earth is linked together as a package, like this year, the horse, right? Chi earth and also Ting fire. But for the snake, this fire doesn't produce earth, it produces future metal, or it is laying the foundation for future metal, which is, of course, one of the sub-chi that is hiding in the snake itself, which is the Keng Yang metal. And then, just as a side, all of these growth stars, except for the pig, which is basically the heaven's portal, carries it Wu Earth, Yang Earth, as a sediment, as a reminder that it is still earthbound, it is still related to our earthly attachments and so on, right? So, that's why it is important to note that whatever that is grown as a seed in the snake year has the potential to materialize as the final result of metal, because metal is basically the final extraction from earth. So fire has to become earth first. Earth has to be produced as pounds of it. There is the first layer of manifestation, and then after that, the extraction of metal from earth is the final human extraction. So the final result, so the final karma, the final reaction to action, right? So in some terms, you can just simplify as karma is metal, the metal element. And then from that seed, the cycle builds metal, produce water, water produce wood, etc., into the new production cycle itself. So I feel it is underemphasized, but hopefully, this is the last hurrah to it. So Keng metal is really the key, right, for how we embrace it, how we use it, and how we prepare for this raw material, raw metal to be formed, right, by the 2028 monkey year, and then also followed through by the refinement of the rooster year in 2029. And that's how I view the connections from here. So whatever that started this year has a potential to ripen as a result. It doesn't just occur like a final result by 2028 and 2029. So that's the power of it, right? So when the Earth Ox finally interacts, right? And it's right at the end of the month. So it's very at the end of the year. So it's super significant because it could, you can have these combinations occurring other parts of the chart. Of course, Ox is always at the end of the year, but the Ox does not always interact with all animal signs. That's one. And in this case, it's interacting with the snake year, okay? Because remember, month and year read in combination is where the information is truly revealed in terms of the interaction, what happens to the effect of the Grand Duke as it rolls through the months of the year, right? So in this case, because the snake and the ox are both the tail ends, the two ends of a metal tree harmony combination, right? Imagine a circle here, I don't have the visual for that, and then you spread out the snake, basically in southeast 3, and then you have the rooster directly west 2, and then of course you have the ox basically in northeast 1, right? So you spread it out, it is all equal one. So this is a tree harmony combination specifically of the metal element, right? So remember, again, we're going back to the metal element. The rooster, of course, is the star or the leader of that group, right? So in basic combination studies of basic parts, you see a snake, you see an ox, immediately there will be at least an image or an energy of the rooster hovering there. Now, how real it is, it depends, right? It depends. If you have a rooster in your chart, you have make it real. It will manifest, it will unfold directly in your life, whatever the interactions or the forecast of the snake, right? If you have sin metal in your chart somewhere, if you are sin metal day master, it can also fit the imagery of the rooster, because especially for the cardinal of the rooster, which is pure yin metal, right? Like the other two cardinals of rat and then also the rabbit. But if you don't have it, then of course there's the months of the rooster, for example, in September. That was the first activation of this. In fact, there's been previous, right? Monkey is also combining with the snake as well. So the snake, the snake's combination possibilities, the reaction with a few different animal signs is very diverse, very different. So that's why when you just put it to, you just logically think about it. Very diverse, very different means it could go many different ways, right? Some animal signs are much more straightforward. The snake is not, right? And that is, of course, a reference as well, a manifestation of the potency of it in terms of its depth of challenges, right? The five poisons that are arisen through activation of the snake animal sign with whatever, and then through that, of course, things happen, right? Emotions are felt due to those things happening, and then it's how we then deal with them that basically gives us the opportunity to finally transmute them in the positive way or a productive way as possible, so that the new mindset is formed. So the rooster anchors down that the new mindset, the reprogrammed ideas, right? The refreshed mind, the refreshed way of looking at things, right? It can also indicate ideas and so on, because metal is mental, besides being tangible metal, or besides being the force of action, which is more Geng, yang metal, than it is Sin. Sin is more ideas, concepts in the mind, right? And of course, any form of communication, because it's the same type of vibration, right? The vibration that we have in our thoughts, with our intention in our mind, right, is in a way, of course, powerful, right? But the second to the voice, which is the more powerful, because it's actually vibrating more, right? Your voice box is literally physically vibrating to give you the voice or the speech or the sound, right? And so metal is thus also sound, and then how far it can travel and how it can connect, of course, is related to what it produces. Metal produces water, right? And then that's the means of connection and communication. So anyway, going back to this metal. So when we come to the end of every year, we're supposed to have learned the animal science lessons, right? That's what is a general thing. But when we come to the end of the snake year, it is very powerful, because this is where it's literally giving us the opportunity to transmute, to get rid of the earth. You can see, you can assume as one way of relating to this, that the G-earth is basically the poison, right? So when we have the earth there and we have the king of the snake, right, interacting, then we have a chance for the rooster to surface. But how much the rooster surfaces and how the seed of the yang fire, or rather the whole snake itself, can convert to the metal, and how the earth of the ox can revert, it goes back, in a way goes back to metal, right? Even though earth in the cycle 5 element actually produces metal, right? But in this case, right, imagine you have like you have a how to say, the soil, the ground, or the mountain earth, and then now you're extracting the metal out of it, right? So it's like, it's supposed to be earth producing metal in that particular case, but then we can also assume that it is part of like the conversion of the chi, right? So you're actually transferring it directly to the metal, and you're eliminating earth that way, as opposed to leaving it there, right, as a never-ending sort of always perennial, right? That's why the old-fashionedness of earth, right? So in this case, so in this, of course, we want to basically have a successful combination, which means we've seeded with the snake, then the snake energizes to the metal, right? And then after that, the earth dissolves, right, into the metal. So how and to what extent then it would determine the way that we have released, the way that we have detached, the way that we have moved from stagnation, the way that we are converting a blockage or a challenge into smooth sailingness through, of course, the wisdom of knowing what to do, how to break through that particular challenge, and so on. Right? And this, of course, is preceded in December, because December we have a very interesting combination of elements as well. We've got the Wu Earth on the rat, which is an internal fire combination from the heavenly stem perspective, right? So in basic parts studies, Wu Earth can combine with Kui water. Yang Earth can combine with Yin water, right? And this is where, if you have studied this, then you'll be like, okay, how does that work? You've got Earth and then you've got water. But fire is the resultant of the combination, right? So that's why as I explained in the forecast for December, which was done earlier before one of the big soul's journey towards the end of 2025, to me, I see it as a disintegration, right? That's why it's one of the ways to describe this pillar itself is an illusion, right? Mountain floating above water, and then the beauty of it, because fire is the desired result from this interaction of these two elements, right? But I see it as a disintegration of earth and thus a disintegration of attachments as well, which is then rolling nicely into the theme of January as well, right? Especially it being the last month of the year, and especially in being the part of the tree harmony combination with the snake itself, right? With the, of course, the leader there as a potential energy of the rooster, right? And then this is even more powerful because it's a pure pillar of Chi Earth. That means the theme of the month is the same exact as the main Chi in the ox, which is the Chi Earth, and signifying, of course, past existing stagnation, and you can also translate to attachment and also blockage, right? So this is the time really to wrap it all up, wrapping the year, and giving this emphasis at least a thought, meditating on it, contemplating on it, without just getting too carried away with what the fire horse is all about, right? So this is what I mean, right? So there's a tree harmony combination in interacting. Two of the pillars are there, the month and then the year, and then of course the rooster is the key transformation that we want to see more of, right? So with the growth of Si, which is basically the snake, to convert to metal to Yo, right? It means whatever that's already resultant, metal is the result, right? And then whatever that is a past attachment or an existing attachment can, in a way, revert, right? Or produce the pure metal, right? And then leaving less and less, and ideally none of the Chi Earth left into the midst. So that's when we know that we have made the most of the year, right? And that we have successfully, converted or reprogrammed our mind, right? We have tasted the result of the whatever karma, right? And remember, it's either favorable or unfavorable, but it's all good for us, right? So remember that. And then we also potentially, as a side, we see results, right? We see little gifts coming our way, little confirmations, because you see, metal is concrete, right? Earth is the raw form, metal is the more refined form or the final form, right? But it is tangible, right? Compared to, like fire and water, for example, right? It is malleable. It is more, a little bit more shapeless compared to the toughness and the tangibility and the feeling-oriented, the sense-oriented orientation of things like earth and also metal. Okay, so close up the year as best as you can with the lessons that you have learned, encountered, and then if you have not quite fully processed it, then of course look back into the lessons of the year and then have that time and space in January to process all of this before we say complete goodbye to the wood snake itself. All this, of course, is tougher, okay, because we have a lot of things going on, right, in the sky. It's very busy. Every end of the year, okay, there's a bit of a holiday mode going on, but this year, I think, even within the holiday mode, there's a lot of things going on, and definitely there's a lot going on through our minds. What we need to do, the obligations we need to fulfill, the commitments that we have undertaken, and now we need to fulfill those. And then even with laying the foundation of what we are doing, either new or relatively new, so that we can build that foundation stronger to rise faster, right? So there's a lot of that energy going on, especially in the first half of January itself, yeah? But what helps a little bit is this, because we talk about the end of the 2025 year itself, the Yi Si, the wood snake, right? That also, okay, brings up another thing. So the way the years of 2025 and 2026 are linked, right? The second and third years of period 9 specifically, because these pillars reoccur every 60 years, right? But they can occur in different periods. But this one is occurring in period 9, right? So you see that the Keng metal, which is so important, it's also, by the way, right? I don't know whether you remember, the parts of 2025 is, or rather contains Keng metal as its useful god, right, in a very important position. So this is like the embedded potential energy that is seeded all throughout the year, right? And of course, in January per se, it is about converting it to realize the karma, right? To get the end result. And then with the end result, if it's something that is favorable or positive, then we repeat it or we enhance it to even greater heights. That means we've done something, we've seen the results, and then now we want to improve it. And the results are generally fairly positive to very positive to outstanding to excellent. Results can also be completely the reverse, right? Instead of scoring A's, B's, these are C, D's, and maybe even F's, right? So if we want to get out of that rut, then of course we have to learn the lesson so that then we rise and we ascend. So then the next cycle that the same thing occurs, and the thing could be whatever. It could be an action, it could be a mindset, it could be a habit. When that reoccurs again, then hopefully we improve how we actually play things out there, right, in relation to that. So that's what that metal is. Okay, so the other one, which is basically the seeding of the entire year, okay, is basically the Keung metal that's hiding in there, right? So the thing about how it's stacked out in terms of months is that February 2026, the first month, which is the most significant in starting off every single year, which is the tiger month, right, is a Keung Yin, which is metal tiger. Same Keung that has been growing and developing underneath the snake all this time. So jumping the gun ahead, so that's two things. That is more relevant to tonight's discussion is that there is a connection. There's a connection to the year of 2025 in a way you can say it's a bit harmonious, above average. And second of all, it shows results. So the results are not only in January, right? But then also potentially in February as well. And that makes a lot of sense because when the tiger comes in, right, it's going to welcome the full burn, the full blaze of the horse, right? Because tiger and horse are the first two of the fire combination, right? So 狮有丑, snake, rooster, ox is a full metal combination, three harmony combination. The tiger and then the horse are two of the fire three harmony combination. So in other words, yes, the significance of the tiger in starting every single year, especially with that immense power of yang wood, right, which is basically a lot of yang growth energy, right? That starts every single year. But in 2026's fire horse year, it is immediately combining with the king of the fire animal signs, which is the horse itself. So suddenly there's this burning inferno, right? So if we had done the work to pre-grow and seed and grow the Keung metal as much as possible, it appears out there, which means it now becomes the heavenly stem. It now becomes the prominent energy of the month. Okay, then we have it with us, in other words, right? And then of course, Keung metal likes to be in pretty much in an inferno. It likes to be shaped in fire, right? Now, is it comfortable? Is it easy? No, right? Through the imagery of metal, yang metal being shaped by fire, is it going to be potentially breakthrough-like for people who are ready? Then of course the answer also potentially yes, right? But it requires work, it requires energy, it requires a certain toughness to it. But it's a gift if we've been cultivating it, the Keung metal, right, ever since its growth stage all throughout 2025 itself, right? So this is what it also looks like in terms of how it welcomes in the fire horse, again with a big burning inferno, right? And then if you read even just slightly deeper into things, right, Keung metal on Jia wood, which is basically the main energy in the tiger, is also that basically acts to wood, acts chopping wood to make fire, right? So even more so, right? So that's why generally, you know, we have the initial entrance of the fire horse in October last year, followed by November. Then it's a little bit more suppressed in December, and the conclusion of January also pushes it down, right? Because in other words, the snake, it's like, okay, let me finish my job. I know you're here, horse, right? And then once we get into approaching February 4th, it's like, whoosh, okay? That whole inferno is just a big fire burning, right? There is the fire horse, and then there is the Keung Yin, right? The Keung metal chopping the Jia wood, or greeting it right at its door, okay? So that is that, and how we are expecting things to unfold in the next few weeks. It's quite crazy, isn't it? So, in many other ways of reading the astrology, of course, if you were with our annual talk presented by Jesse last week, all the information there, right? Super, super revealing. The comets, right? Three eye in our vicinity and how it's activating all the other planets. All the planets are the foundation of astrology. So with this interstellar comet coming in, it is activating the foundation of our astrology, right? Especially in certain parts, right? Mainly Mars and also Jupiter, which are also part of the fire, you can say, combination in Western astrology. So, wow, right? Anyway, so if you have caught that, you know what I mean. If you have not, the replay of the astrology talk is still available for purchase. Okay. So now from Western astrology, then we see two halves of the month, which is related to the timing as well, right? So the first half, okay, which is up to the transition dates that you see in the first portion there, January 17th, January 20th, and January 23rd, thereabouts, right? Now, the sun, of course, is the solar progression, and in the solar progression of the Western astrology signs is in between the Chinese astrology signs, but by and large, they have because of that they overlap, and if you dissect them, they actually basically tell you the same transition of energy. But because of the overlap, there's like some nuances in between, right? You see that the transition up to, I think it's the great, I can't remember the 24 solar term, so sorry about that, right? I wrote it in my newsletter Outlook. And the transition of the mid-month solar term of the 24 solar terms is the starting of the Western horoscope. So in that January 20th period, it is switching from Capricorn, which is where the Western horoscope is sitting right now, into Aquarius or the January 20 point. Now, the sun does this every year at the same points, plus minus 1 day, right? But the other planets, okay, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and so on, right? They don't. They move. Of course, they're orbiting around the sun. Every planet is, right? But in relation to the Earth, they seem to move into different portions of the sky as viewed by us, and that's how the Western astrology planetary movements are analyzed and studied, right? And they can be anywhere, in other words, around the 360, right? But just so happens the three most active short-term, that means daily energy, right? Mercury is our instant vibration. That's Mercury, right? And then Mars, of course, is our masculine principle, personal masculine, and then Venus is our personal feminine. Those three, which that means governs our day-to-day life, right? They're all in Capricorn with the sun. Remember, the sun is in Capricorn up to January 19th. But so is Mercury up to around January 9th, the 20th, right? And so is Venus. That one is up to January 17th. And so is Mars up to a bit later, a couple of days later, in January 23rd. Then at the same time, once they pass through their own thresholds there, they move into the next sign of Aquarius, which is more of a metal energy, right? More of a metal mixed with a fire energy. So from an emphasis on duty, commitment, and long-termness, that's why I say it's a very busy, I have a lot of things to fulfill. I have a lot of things to catch up on. Oh, I shouldn't lose out on, right? That's from a fear basis, isn't it? I don't want to lose out, so I need to do this, that, and this, and that, and this, and that, right? Or I feel like, I really need to buck up in terms of my this and that and this and that and this and that. So I have to put in a lot of work, right? So that's that feel that we have ever since late December, especially, right after the solstice, and then into the mid of this month, which is around the January 19th period. So we will feel that as well reflected. But when we get closer to towards the second half, right, of the month, right, after January 20th, safely after January 23rd, then the energy is back to more of that freer, futuristic, optimistic, sort of like hopeful fire energy, right? With more of the things that we have to do already done, and so on and so forth, right? So you see all these same planets, including, of course, anchored by the sun itself, right, moving into the season of Aquarius, alongside all of those personal planets, right, of Mercury, Mars, and so Venus, all into this more metal fire energy. Metal is potential, right? Fire, of course, is what activates the potential as well. So it's back to that period 9 type of excitement and all that. Then, of course, a few days later, leading into the metal tiger of February itself, combusting the fire horse. So that's going to be a period to watch out for, right? So it's very exciting, but yet is also potentially dangerous, okay, in those ways of the fire horse, right? So then the timeline, of course, for this month reflects those two, okay? So up to now, okay, from a couple of days back on January 5th up to the middle month portion, right, it's where we feel like we have to fulfill commitments on another perspective to lay the better foundation for what we are building long term, right? And then, of course, the reminder is, even though it's busy energy, it's stressful energy, right, in terms of a lot of things to get done, remember to plan, and then also importantly to act with the long term in mind. Don't lose sight of it, because that's what the energy is asking us to do. Then the second half of the month, like I said, is more optimistic, open, more exciting, more like future oriented. I'm thinking about the future, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to achieve, right? So that happens leading into the combustion of February 4th. Okay, so take the 21st onwards days and a couple of weeks there, do the, with this forward moving energy, adjust whatever that needs to be adjusted, right? Change whatever that needs to be changed. This is kind of like the last chance to do it before we're completely combusted, okay, in February 2026. It's like, wow, right? And then, of course, this is also the energy of future orientation, right? So that's why it's also very suitable as a general period of manifestation before it gets into the, okay, whatever that's already vibrated is just going to be, or it will just occur, will just happen of the fire horse itself, okay, from February 4th onwards. Okay, so technically that's what I have. So before I share with you, some concluding thoughts and opinions, okay, so if you have any questions, if you have any comments, I welcome them now, okay, before I start to wrap up, because there's a bit of lag. Then after that, you got to type in there if you're commenting or asking a question. I got to see it, waiting for Facebook to process it. Then you got to hear it, the comment or the answer before we actually say goodbye, right? So anything you want to say, any wishes, right, or any questions, any comments, right, I welcome them now in the comments of all 3 pages that this is streaming from, right? In the meantime, right, I just want to share with you a few things, a few opportunities, right? So let's hit the first one, Nicole. Right, so every year at the cusp of the year, now this year I have to also apologize, right? Whether it's to my existing clients or subscribers, right? The schedule has just been quite packed, to say the least, right? All the way from Tibet, our soul's journey. From our soul's journey Tibet, which it started in October and ended in October. Then we were back for literally 2 weeks, of which it was packed with classes, right? And then after that, it was also packed with a lot of planning work. And then we were off to then Egypt. And then from Egypt, we thought, okay, since the Egypt trip is later in the year, so we pushed it a little bit back. And thus, of course, it cuts off our exploration of Europe. So typically after every Egypt, which is at the end of the year, so we will take some time out in Europe to explore a country, right? And we will mix a bit of leisure, relaxation. We usually KO after our Egypt Soul's journey for a couple of days, 2-3 days, we will just literally just KO, right? And catch up on our rest there. And then we will explore, right? We'll look for opportunities to be inspired by the land that we're in, and then look for signs, opportunities to potentially visit there with our beautiful students one year, right? But this year, it was right at the end of the year, so we had to cut things shorter. And then, of course, we were in England, and specifically with the aim of exploring Glastonbury, right, which is truly awesomely magical, right? So that story for another time. But it was also shorter. So we had no rest there, and we were so excited being in England, which we weren't sure at first, but certainly by the time we stepped foot into Glastonbury, it's like we were super activated, right? So again, not much rest there, right? But it was all good. It was very beautiful. It was very magical, but it was, required energy, shall we say, right? And then come back, of course, there's all these busy preparations for the new year with this excitement of the fire horse. So I've had a tremendously packed schedule, and I've not had the opportunity to squeeze in as many of my 八字 premium consults. Now, why I call them 八字 premium? Now, it is anchored on 八字. That means I will analyze your astrology chart and I'll give you the different levels of the reading. Your permanent self, right? Which is what you should achieve, and how can you fulfill that at the first level and then ultimate level, right? So we talk about that. Then of course is the timing of the dynamic 10-year pillars. Where are you at this particular moment? What does that luck pillar want you to learn by the end of it? And where are you? Are you at the start of it? Are you in the middle? Are you at the end? Then at the same time, right, there is the current year, the current year itself that's analyzed. So all three levels analyzed in any standard parts reading session, right, by myself. But this premium is because it also comes with the activations to help you basically activate your chart, right? So now, to be very clear, we're not talking about feng shui activations in general because I don't know your house in detail, right? Unless I have done an analysis, I've done an audit, and I've done repeated sessions of this with you, right? So we don't get into the permanent energies of the home. We only see what are the potential annual energies which are best to be tapped into, right? In a simple sense, where and which animal signs basically contain the more auspicious stars and which have none, or less or more inauspicious stars. That's only one key part of the criteria of choice, right? Then we have to look into what could potentially benefit you from that perspective. Which animal signs hold some key to unlock more for you? So when we have that analysis, then we have to see, is it suitable? Is it activated? Is it powerful for that year? And then, yes, looking into the auspicious and inauspicious stars is one layer of it, but even more importantly is that does it fit, does it suit? Because sometimes so-called less highly ranked animal sign sector could also be more suitable for you. So then, based on that discussion and recommendation, then we have these activations that help you support your Bazi chart for the year. And we know that we need to do this in the early part of the year. We need to capture spring, not only from a feng shui perspective, but from our own Bazi mindset and action orientation, right? So that's why it has to be done within this timing, from late last year up to maybe about end of February, right, for this particular year, all of these sessions, right? Because this is a timely one that is based on the potentials of activating suitable feng shui spots for your chart to help you activate bits of the chart that is good for your learning and growth. And it depends, right? Is it a resource element that we're activating that's more for learning and support and also having a protection layer, or is it championing wealth direct and so on? And that is very personal, right? We get into it only with every chart read in person. So if you're interested in it, right? So now it is for a very short duration. It's open to you if you're a new subscriber, right? So like I said, I apologize to my existing subscribers who have renewed for 2026 because the scheduling for that has been very, very tight. So because the scheduling for that has been really, really tight, I can only open this up to a limited number of sessions with limited people, limited subscriber, limited charts. And then also I do have to ask for your patience to wait for the scheduling of that. But it will be for this purpose, right? That means existing subscribers aside, this will probably commence from about January 20th thereabouts, right? January 20th, I can start to schedule in these new readings. If you're interested in it, you can go to the link and then make that particular purchase or the transaction, and then we will put you into that queue from January onwards up to maybe about a month, up to the following month of February 20th plus. And then after that, that's it. Because if we have not managed to touch base, we have not managed to give and collaborate on the activation suitable for you for the first portion of the year, then there's no further point in doing this Bazi Premium, right? And then of course, Bazi readings are available, but then that's the standard Bazi itself, okay? So that's what Bazi Premium is. If you're interested and called to it, right? And if you are interested in working with me personally to activate your Bazi chart, to work with goals of the year, right? What's the energy of the year, and also what are the annual feng shui possibilities for the year. Now, annual feng shui, of course, is in a way, generally practitioners will summarize it as the easiest way to work with feng shui. Now, that is kind of true, right? But it has never been as relevant as it is now in period 9, because period 9 is all about immediacy, about fast, and the fast first layer of feng shui to basically have effect is always the annual feng shui, okay? So there you go. So that's the Bazi Premium. If you're called to it, I welcome you to sign up for that. Now, we also have a couple of very powerful courses coming in, okay? This month of January. So this one was basically scheduled earlier last year, but due to busy schedule and circumstances, right, it had been pushed to January. Now, Tarot Your Personal Blueprint is based on tarot system, but it is like, the way I would summarize it is like doing parts but with tarot cards. So it is a fixed reading, which means that on the good news, you don't need a deck for this, right? The good news is also this is a very good class for you to be very well versed with certain cards of the tarot deck, right? In fact, generally, as a whole, without having to, or let me rephrase that. At the same time, you're able to read the blueprint of the person, just like 八字. Right? Now, it is it is not a divinatory-based class. That is the Tarot Masterclass, which is coming in a couple of months from now, right? But this one is a blueprint reading. It's like reading a destiny chart, but using a tarot system, right? So it's very unique, right? And I think Jessie is the like one of, or maybe the only practitioner that actually does it. Right? But that's why I say if you want to revise your tarot as well, if you've not taken this, it's also a very good way to get really deep with the cards as well. Okay, as in like the actual cards, but you don't need a physical deck because you can just use the pictorial of the cards, the pictures and the images of the cards. So that's happening this weekend, right? Just a last minute sort of like introduction to it. In case you're new, you've not heard, and you would like to try out this masterclass, in fact. Okay, so that's happening this weekend. Then speaking of masterclasses, every year, okay, one of our signature programs, also helmed by Jessie and taught by Jessie, is Power Up, right? So 八字apply in the personal sense in her system and how she sees you can benefit from it by applying it yourself, okay? Feng Shui similarly, and then of course how you can choose auspicious dates yourself through a system and a simple to apply method that is taught by her. So this is like, I want to go deeper than just the annual talk. I want to really work for myself, right? I want to use a little bit of Chinese metaphysics or the in-depth, depending on whether you're a seasoned practitioner or more of a beginner, but use it and apply it on your own. Okay, so Power Up is happening the following, correct? Okay, 2 weeks gap later, right? Towards the end of the month, a 2.5 day workshop masterclass for you to work powerfully with the energies of 2026 yourself. Okay, so that's happening. And just some introduction here. This is one that you shouldn't miss if you want to basically capitalize on this fire horse year as much as we can. Okay, so just a quick little preview there on the 3 components that we have for you. Okay, so in the meantime, let's wrap up. Right, let's bring back the cover page there. Okay, Happy New Year to you, Vic. Similarly to you, Sunita. Hope you're doing well. Al, right, good evening to you. Rebecca Wong, right, showing a lot of enthusiasm for what's to come in the horse year. As much as we can, we want to be as prepared for it. Okay, speaking of being prepared, right, so one thing that is not quite there yet, because we've not had the time to consolidate the core of what we want to do, but it's very simple. I shared with you, right? At the end of the month, okay, just watch out for more information, right? So we are planning a 1-day re-energizing workshop-based class online. Okay, it will be online. It's all about basically sealing the wood snake ear energetically, and then of course, more importantly, activating the fire horse ear with our own energy body, because that's key, right? You can do, or you can try to maximize your feng shui, the qi around you. That's what the study of feng shui is all about, right? And this day and age, we have, of course, dynamic feng shui that helps us do that, right? Go out and get the qi where it is relevant and powerful, as opposed to waiting for it at home, right? But whatever it is, this can only help you so much if your body and your physical and subtle, that means, your own personal energy, right? Beyond just the physical, your aura and so on, is not in a good shape, or is not open, is not receptive, is not ready, then the best of feng shui isn't really going to work that effectively, right? And then of course, what more if you have not powered it up with the correct mindset, attitude, and with the lessons to be learned, not quite learned yet, okay? But this year, a month-end event, we're going to work with our energy body through breath work, right? Sound, and then of course, also basically, it is basically inner work, right, that we'll be working on personally to be as ready as possible to ground and also to capture, right, in a positive way, the positive energies or the excitement of the Firehorse 2026. So watch out for that. And we really hope you can join us there one full day of this personal inner work type of content. Of course, there will be some technical aspects and information that will be presented from the mind perspective as well. Okay, so stay tuned for more information on that. I hope to see you in that workshop, the full day workshop, right? So that's a wrap for the official January Earth Ox month, right? Can I just quickly see that? Any other comments there before all the promos were done? Hi, Tammy. A praying palm from Nophyros. Nice to see you both ladies online. Okay, and then I'm just going to do some justice here to the ST page. Right, sometimes we don't see the comment there, right? And let me just quickly check into that. Okay, so I hope you're prepared, okay, for the wrap. Remember, give it a bit of a conscious emphasis, lah, right? Right, sign off, right, seal off the wood snake in this January Earth Ox month, and then with that. And then with the inner work, which I hope you will be joining us for the end month workshop, will be as grounded as possible to greet the flames and the inferno of the Firehorse, and then of course be able to turn it, right? Turn it not just as the challenge of the fire, but then also be able to work with the beauty and magic and the alchemy of fire as well, okay? For the Firehorse. So thanks so much if you join me live. If you're watching this as a replay, as a post live, also I thank you in advance. And then to all of you, have a wonderful January 2026 ahead. Okay, I'll touch base again soon. Thanks. Take care. Bye.